Welcome to Jhart Modelworks. We're in the home stretch, but there's still a lot to do taking care of all the final bits and bobs to wrap up the Tamiya Nissan Skyline 2000 GTR. Welcome to my workbench. Let's get started. Pretty much all the remaining parts are chrome or clear, and there's lots of decals and little things to wrap up. So we'll start by cutting off and prepping all the parts. Now we're going to take all the chrome parts and we're going to strip them and respray them with the Gravity Colors McLaren Chrome. So I'm just going to prep them, clean them up, and drop them in this little tub. Before we put the front grille into the tub, we're going to modify it with some large diamond mesh from Hasegawa. I started by scoring along the edge of the mesh with a hobby knife, but after an eternity of not getting anywhere, I switched to drilling holes around the grill area and then cutting the space in between with my display nippers. I then filed the surface smooth with a metal file. Next, we're going to use some Tamiya tape to make a template for the openings. We'll then cut the templates out and transfer them to the mesh. It took me a few tries to cut these right. Eventually I cut them, leaving a bit of mesh on the top and the bottom that we'll use to glue them in place. Now we're going to use a photo etch bending tool to get a smooth, straight bend. We're bending the extra material on the top and the bottom at about a 90 degrees, and we'll use that material to push the grill forward in the opening so that it sits in the right place, and it'll give us extra material to glue the mesh in place with. A quick test fit looks good, so we're going to paint them using some Mr. Surfacer 1500 primer cut 50/50 with Mr. Leveling Thinner. And that looks a lot better than the original kit grill. With the modifications done to the front grille, it goes into the tub and everything gets a bath in some cheap concentrated store brand bleach. I like to shake the parts up so everything gets fully coated. These parts will be stripped in minutes. The photo etch fret I got has a GTR logo for the front grille. I painted it black and then carefully rubbed the paint off the letters. I tried to paint the GT, but it was just too small, so I only cut the two red letters from the decal and applied it to the raised letters. Then I glued the badge onto our new mesh grille. Now that the grill frame's been re-chromed, we'll add a bit of CA glue to the back of the frame, and then we'll push our new mesh in from the back. This will give us a nice clean appearance to the new grill. And for the finishing touch, we'll add the Nissan N decal to the center of the grill. Next, we're going to make a dome light. Starting off, we're going to cut a piece of clear sprue and we're going to mount it up into a drill. I'll then use some metal files to shape one end into a dome. Once we have the shape, we'll hit it with some 400 grit sanding sponge. This will rough up the surface and give it a translucent white appearance. With the clear part shaped, we'll switch to a bit of aluminum tubing, and using our files, we'll flatten the end and then bevel the edge. We'll hit this with a sanding sponge too to give it a bright shine. Next, we'll cut a tiny sliver off the end we just rounded. Be careful that you don't smash it out of shape though. Now we just glue the metal ring around the dome piece. Cut the sprue, being careful not to damage your nippers on the metal ring, and then file the back end flat. Our next step is going to be to paint the back end white. This will reflect up into the clear part and it will improve the whiteness of the dome light. And now we just glue it into place for a really easy piece of detail that most people miss out on. Moving on to the glass now, I find it useful to fold some Tamiya tape over itself to form a handle, and I leave some hanging off of each side. This way I can easily fit the part into place and then tape it down so it doesn't move. We're going to be using this clear UV glue a lot in this episode. It's easy to put in place and it doesn't cure till you hit it with a light. If you get some on the glass, you can easily clean it off with a wet cotton bud before you cure it. With the front glass in place, we'll move on to the sides and the rear glass. With the glass in place, we'll move into gluing the grill in place. Be careful not to get any CA glue on your fingers and don't drip any on the body. And it's back to the UV glue for the headlight lenses. I'm using a blob of blue tack that I shape into a really fine point. It's really helpful for setting these small parts. It holds the parts without getting in the way like tweezers, and unlike tweezers, small parts don't ping off into space. Once you have the part in place, just hold it down with a finger and remove the blue tack. Or if you know there's no glue on the blue tack itself, you can just leave it in place, cure it with the light, and then remove the blue tack. We painted the front turn indicator buckets with some Molotov chrome previously. That'll make the turn indicators reflective and more realistic. The rear side markers are chrome, and they're supposed to have a white arrow in the front and 3 black dots in the back. I did manage to paint the white arrow for the most part, but the 3 black dots were just too tiny. The rear end starts with adding a bit of chrome trim to the center of the trunk, and then gluing in the taillight buckets with CA glue. We're then going to glue down the spoiler. This was originally green. When sanding out a small run, I sanded too hard on a tiny bit of the edge down to the black primer. It's too small to be seen on camera. In fact, most people would never even notice it. I was going to respray it along with the front lip spoiler that Sean cast from me from his street custom version of the kit. But if I didn't spray both perfectly, they wouldn't match the body and they'd stand out. Then I thought that since the rear fender flares in semi-gloss black, as are the mirrors, having the spoiler and the front lip in black as well would tie it all together. Chris and Sean agreed, and I think the black gives it a much more aggressive look. Just like the spoiler, we're going to glue the mirrors in place from the underside of the body, thanks to the pins we put in the first episode. This keeps any glue from getting on the body and making a mess. We'll then add in our door handles. It's finally time to mount the body to the chassis. This is a bit tricky. All the corners want to hang, so you have to pull on the sides and the corners to make sure they all clear while you're sliding the body in. You also need to get these posts in the front to go in some sockets. But to do that, you may have to tug and pull on the back because there's a slot in the back that needs to go in, and if the back is too high into the body, not only will that not fit right, but the front won't fit into its place either. The result is a bunch of tugging and pulling and being real careful not to break any of the suspension. Once it's in though, the fit is perfect. There are a couple of chrome circles that need to go on these C-pillars, and then there's an S logo decal that goes on top of each one of them. There's also a Skyline logo for the trunk's chrome trim piece. The kit comes with these metal transfers for the Skyline badges on the front quarter panels. Peel the clear transfer and the logo and place it like a sticker. Then burnish it down with a cotton bud and remove the clear transfer. The side badges have a GT shield decals that go over the silver shields on the transfers. I very carefully set them in place, and then I destroyed both of them with these pointy tweezers. Using some DIY decal paper, I made some new ones that actually have a higher resolution than the original decals. I think they came out really good. Now to glue on the fender flares, I'm only putting glue in these 4 locating notches. Be very careful where and how much glue you use so that it doesn't get on the body and show up outside the fender flare. Bumpers are pretty straightforward. Just put a little glue on the locating pins and push them home. While we're at it, we're going to go ahead and glue on the front lip. If you pay attention, there's a little bit of trim right on the bottom edge. I'm going to try and get the CA just on that trim and then use that as my locating guide for the lip piece. Once again, using our UV glue pen, we're going to go ahead and glue in the rear tail lights and these reverse lenses that go on the bumper. For some reason, these side indicators on the front just did not like the UV glue, so we put them in with some Bob Smith Super Gold Plus. We have our Hobby Design wheels painted in Star Gold from E7, and we're going with the kit tires. I picked up a set of these Hobby Design Advent tires to go with the wheels, but they have these casting nubs on the side, and even after you clean them up, they still look terrible. It's such a shame. Also, I think the kit tires fill the wheel wells better anyhow. Instead of using my usual cardstock, I made license plate decals to go on the photo etch plates, along with the registration and toll tags. For a little fun, I set the registration number to the month and year the kit was finished. In order to get white in a do-it-yourself decal, you have to use white decal paper. And if you use the white decal paper, you have to cut right up on the decal itself, or you're going to have extra white decal paper sticking out past your design. Now, something I found while I was printing these is that Photoshop was defaulting to a medium quality on plain paper. I've set it for the best quality on glossy photo paper, and the decals are so clear I can see the registration numbers pretty easy. I can even see some of the decals like the little Texas symbols if I zoom in with the camera. I know this is a right-hand drive car, but I'm doing Texas registration on it, so technically this is an imported car. I don't know exactly what the rules are, where you would put the registration sticker in that situation. I've always seen the registration on the left-hand side. Maybe I did this wrong. If you guys know what would happen in that situation, if you should put it on the left or the right, let me know in the comments below. Once the plate decals are dry, we'll add some 0.03 inch photo etch bolts from ProTac. Charlie over at ProTac told me the secret to getting these off this rubber mat. Instead of trying to scrape these off with a hobby knife, fold the rubber over onto itself and use your fingernail to scrape a couple off. I like to do this over a sheet of white paper so they're easier to find when they fall off. Hold them close to the paper so that when they do fall, they don't bounce very far away. Once you have your bolts off, you're just going to put a drop of clear on the plate and then moisten the other end of the toothpick with a little saliva or maybe some water and use it to pick up the bolt and place it on top of the clear, making sure you get the bolt right side up. The clear will dry and act as glue. The moisture on the toothpick gives it just enough tackiness to hold these tiny little bolts, but it's less adhesive than the clear, so when the clear grabs hold, you can remove the toothpick and the bolt stays in place. Just keep track of which end of the toothpick has got the clear on it. We re-chromed the wipers and added a little flat black for the rubber blades, and we're going to glue this in with some CA glue as well. Be very careful not to get glue on the body or on your fingers. There's nothing so annoying as getting a little glue on your fingertip and then touching the body somewhere else and realize you've damaged your paint job. Sometimes you'll get lucky and you can sand and polish it out, but it's still extra work you really didn't need or want. And that's going to wrap up the build. I'm very pleased with how this one turned out. There will be a finale video coming out next where we'll look at the build in detail and go over all the little things we did. But before we go, I've started putting new builds into these clear cases to protect them. The ones I've gotten from Hobby Lobby have a clear bottom as well, and I wanted to add some of this 3M non-slip material to make it look like the car is sitting on asphalt. So we're going to take the base and we're going to lay it top side down onto the back of the material. And we're going to trace around it with a black Sharpie. Next, we'll cut the material off and trim it up. This next step will make it easier to line the material up and stick it down straight. We want to cut a line through the middle of the backing, but just the backing. Don't cut the material. Line the material up, then fold back one side and remove the backing. Keeping the material firmly in place, carefully lower the material down and rub it smooth. Don't get any wrinkles on it and don't let the material slip. The adhesive on this stuff is crazy strong. Once it's down, and it's not coming back up anytime soon. Then repeat for the other side and it's done. Personally, I think this gives the case a much more realistic look. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Also, feel free to leave comments, feedback, critique, or anything else in the comment section below. I enjoy interacting with all my viewers in the comment section and try to reply to all the comments I receive. If you want to catch future videos, please consider subscribing to my channel and make sure you click the bell notification icon so you can be notified when I upload new videos. As always, thank you for watching, keep modeling, and have a great day.